What do you think it would really happen if there were no rules? Like no one to control traffic, no schools, no hospital, just chaos, right? That's why governments exist. In the Springer Nature Link, the world system is described as a territory that is multicultural and characterized by divisions of labor. Economically speaking, a well-run state creates opportunities to help businesses flourish and influences a nation's ability to accumulate power. It also provides essential daily necessities such as clean water, electricity, healthcare, and education. For instance, a study published in the Journal of Social and Economic Development highlights that effective public institutions are crucial in maintaining infrastructure projects, which significantly contribute to economic growth. But there's obviously a catch. Governments aren't perfect. More often than not, corruption and nepotism can lead to unfair systems. For example, the Wall Street Journal shows how China's president has intensified a campaign against petty corruption, targeting low level officials. While aiming to boost Communist Party support, this reveals widespread corruption within governmental structures. Furthermore, when power becomes concentrated among a small group of individuals, it can lead to a system where decisions benefit the elite at the expense of the general population, destroying democratic principles, according to a Timbuk article that explains the severity of the matter to a younger audience. So, while different institutions coming together play a vital role in successfully maintaining a state, is not always perfect. From a political stand, finding a balance is the great challenge that has to be dealt with, as means to creating a system strong enough to maintain order but fair enough to protect people's rights.
In today's world, the concept of globalization has become one of the most powerful forces shaping our economies, cultures, and societies. From the products we consume to the way we communicate, the influence of globalization touches nearly every aspect of our daily lives. But what exactly is globalization? Well, globalization has to do with increasing of nations through the flow of goods, services, and ideas, leading to both economic growth and potential challenges like inequality. Globalization gives us access to diverse goods and services, which promotes economic growth. An article was published on the week stating that globalization provides market opportunities and facilities in businesses' operations. From an economic standpoint, one can say that this is beneficial since it boosts the economy with people working in trade. Apart from this, globalization allows businesses to expand and grow into new markets, increasing sales and revenue this contributes to businesses and overall wealth of the country. On the other hand, globalization can lead to job displacements in developed countries as companies relocate to places with lower labor costs. This can affect the economy negatively because particular industries like manufacturing may face job losses. This increase in unemployment rates and competition for the remaining jobs. An article on NPR was published saying that, but it was a surprise that so many manufacturing workers struggle to transition to jobs in different places. Globalization can also widen into conflict like protesters causing trouble and so on. Another article was published on NPR stating that police battled protesters, including some who threw gasoline bombs and set vehicles on fire and tried to storm the convention center where the world leaders were meeting. Global political leaders sparked these violent protesters, leading to a tense and dangerous situation. From an environmental standpoint, this can lead to many damages to the environment and properties around. Overall, globalization is a complex and multi-phase phenomenon with both positive and negative effects. While it has driven economic growth, culture exchange, and it also has contributed to inequality and environmental damage. Can we truly call aid effective if it's more about political power than the well-being of those in need? Foreign aid plays a significant role in global development. However, the provision and politics of aid are difficult. While aid has the potential to reduce poverty and promote development, it is also often talked and argued about for being entangled in political motives and sometimes corruption. The provision of aid refers to the act of providing resources, funds, goods, and services to help support countries or communities in need. For example, a few years ago, an article was published stating that Stephen Palazzo, who represents a coastal district of Mississippi that was badly damaged by Hurricane Katrina in 2005, quickly changed course, announcing he would vote for further aid. After Hurricane Katrina passed, political aid would be very beneficial with paying for those damages. Those damages cost sometimes all the way up to billions of dollars. From a governmental standpoint, this aid that they give to these countries and states in need help them a lot. Aid can provide much needed financial resources to support large infrastructure projects such as building roads, bridges, schools, and hospitals. Recently, there was an article launched talking about how Harris announced $100 million in assistance for the region and pledged that the United States would be strengthening our partnership across the continent of Africa. While it does benefit the provision and politics of aid, it can also often serve as a tool for manipulating or controlling the political landscape of recipient countries. Chief Justice Jones observed that the government clearly can put conditions on how the money it gives out or is spent. Most countries tend to control or manipulate other recipient countries. These poor countries that needed help always tend to depend on the other countries for help. To reiterate, the provision and politics of aid are closely linked with both beneficial and destructive consequences. While aid has the potential to provide assistance and promote development, other countries are constantly needing help and assistance from other countries. That always depends on them.
In this video, I'll be going over literature. But to begin with, what is literature? Well, literature is the body of written works, which includes, but is not limited to, novels, dramas, poems, and short stories. Firstly, literature has many positives, one of these just being stated in a recent Outlier article called Why Study Literature, which states just by reading literature you can improve your knowledge of language, vocabulary, grammar, sentence structure, context creation, and more. And these skills you gain will aid you just not throughout school, but throughout your everyday life. Also within the same article, it goes over how literature helps people strengthen their overall worldview by giving them insight and context about social norms and cultural traditions. Further speaking, from a cultural standpoint, literature can help people further understand different races, cultures, religions, and traditions. The literature can also cause problems. In a recent BBC News article named Classic Novel off GCSE List Admitted Racial Slurs Fear, it states that teachers having discussed a book named Of Mice and Men in class to be psychologically and emotionally harmful for some black children, and it's only when the racial terms appeared is when the children said they felt uncomfortable. From a medical standpoint, this could have lasting psychological damage, which could lead to mental and emotional damage and then culminate into physical damage. Literature can also paint negative stereotypes. For instance, in a Miami Herald article I read called Children's Beliefs About Gender May Be Influenced by the Books They Read, Studies Find. And within the study, it's found that forms of literature may paint negative gender-based stereotypes. For example, women is good and men is bad, women better at language skills, men better at math skills, women better at art skills, men better at math skills, and women more family-oriented and men more career-oriented. So, overall, literature does have many benefits, but it does cause a few problems.
As we know, immigration has always been a really hot topic, but it has escalated even more since Trump's election, and honestly, now is the right time to question ourselves. Why is this a problem? While there are many definitions for migration and population, one way they could be connected is how migration affects the population and what consequences it brings. One of the biggest effects migration has is increasing economic growth. This happens when immigrants work in high demand positions, they increase expenditure and create new businesses. Another positive effect would be that it leads to population growth, which also leads to economic growth, increases birth rates, and helps the development of the country. However, it definitely has a negative impact on the environment in densely populated cities where immigration is strong, which leads to some concerns such as pollution. Sometimes immigrants are being treated unfairly or have very bad working or social conditions. As I was researching, I came across a pretty interesting story. It's about the Prince Harry's immigration situation. In essence, what happened is that allegedly he lied on his visa application back in 2020 about drug consumption. And in an article in Fox News, it was reported that the Department of Homeland Security released court declaration from agents in the immigration case of Prince Harry. The whole situation is still ongoing, but it still raises some questions. From a social viewpoint, this could definitely lead to conflicts and protests about the alleged special treatment that Prince Harry received, and it will also impact his public image. Also, politically speaking, this, as well as other cases, could boost Trump's image and political power as he deporting people that lied on their visas as well as the illegal criminals could imply that his deportation policies are working. While many argue the impacts of migration, the population, what will happen to the people if they're not allowed to have a better future?
I know that almost all of us, or at least me, don't like to travel in car because it's either a 4 hour or a 10 hour drive to get to my travel destination. But at the end of the day, when you get to that destination, what you see is you see the beautiful sights it has to offer, and you also get to help small local shops when buying from them, and it's helping their economy by providing money and turning that small business into a bigger business. At some point, we've all had to travel somewhere, whether it's a car or a plane, and that is what transportation is. When someone or some goods are traveled from one place to another. A while ago, I discovered an article from Tempe Mergers on how tourism really helped boost local economies by helping create job offers for the locals in tourism and transportation. From an economical stance, tourism and travel can really help boost local and global economies and help create jobs. Not only can it help economically, but it can also give the opportunities to meet new people and engage in the new cultures. For example, an article found in The Guardian showed how two best friends met when one of them went to visit the other's home country in Germany. Would you guys have ever thought to meet your best friend in a different country? Well, ever since then, they have been unstoppable and travel together. From a social sense, tourism can help learn about different cultures and help people learn about their different lifestyles and develop appreciation for them. But have you ever wondered how much it has affected our environment? You know, as a matter of fact, I recently found an article in The Guardian on how cruise ships in Europe have been emitting 4 times the sulfur oxide than all cars combined and have caused acid rain and pollution. From an environmental standpoint, tourism can really cause some serious harm to the environment and is one of the main causes of climate change and greenhouse gases emission. Another thing is that popular tourist spots can become overcrowded and cause disturbance towards the locals and make traffic. In the article found in the NPR, it showed how local citizens in Hawaii have been fed up with tourism and states how tourism industries has led to overcrowding, rising cost of living, and strain on local resources. From an environmental perspective, tourism is negatively affecting Hawaii as housing costs are going higher and higher and overcrowding is occurring. We're all in school and getting education, so we want a first-hand experience of how schools really are and the effect it has on us. Education is the process of learning skills and concepts that will be needed through our lives. Receiving a good education can lead to better career opportunities and job prospects. An article in WP states how Virginia Tech utilizes the most modern technologies in its curriculum to equip students with the industry demands require skills to perform with their careers. From an educational perspective, incorporating new technologies into higher education gives students state-of-the-art skills that will help them stay competitive in the job market. A good education isn't just necessary for our professional lives, but for our personal lives as well. Essential skills and knowledge is vital for personal growth and development. Although education can be very beneficial and can help gain a lot of knowledge about different topics, it can be very expensive paying for college and all. An article located in the NPR explained how the rising cost of education and the burden of student debt, while many prestigious schools like Harvard and Yale are just sitting on piles and piles of money. The article argues on how these schools do not pay taxes on their huge endowments and how it's unfair that us regular people have to pay to the funds the already rich universities. From an economical perspective, these schools should focus on the student debt and how they can help. And are these schools helping by reinvesting in the students, or are they just building financial reserve? Another major problem is the stress and pressure students get when trying to finish schoolwork or trying to balance out school and life. An article located in the CNN shows the conditions of U.S. public schools and how it's gotten worse. It says how schools were rated D for physical issues, including lack of air conditioning, leaking ceilings, and pest infection that disrupt learning and create unsafe environments. Beyond the physical issue, the article discusses a mental health crisis affecting students. Surveys show that many teens are burnt out and feel pressure to be perfect. These stressors cause increased anxiety, sadness, and overall well-being concerns. The article talks about the important need for improvements in school facilities and mental health for students. From an environmental perspective, improving the poor conditions in U.S. public schools would entail standards based around sustainability, health, and efficiency.
As aerospace technology improves, we're going to need to confront the frontier of space as something necessary for humanity. This includes space exploration, which is the use of astronomy and space technology to study celestial bodies,
Space industry includes everything related to space, like manufacturing spacecraft, satellites, and space tourism. When people invest in research for space, it can create innovation and create new technologies. Some technology from satellites have greatly helped many industries like agriculture and communications. It has also helped scientific fields like meteorology. Space exploration has also greatly helped increase knowledge of the universe around us. It has allowed us to explore things which humanity has never done or seen before. I read in a CNN article, a solar probe was sent as close to the sun as possible ever before, allowing it to gather data while being in the corona of the sun. On the other hand, space exploration industry can cost billions. The US spent $79 billion on space programs last year. Another effect is that rocket launches can have disastrous effects on the environment. Every launch can put hundreds of tons of ozone-damaging black carbon into the atmosphere. Now, for specs. From a scientific standpoint, investment into space exploration could support scientists and greatly affect the scientific consensus. Another spec is from an environmental standpoint. Currently, launching is barely sources pollution compared to other things, but in the future, when space exploration industry becomes more common, the amount of carbon, soot, and other pollutants will become a very serious problem. And now, for the question. Should we continue to invest in space in the coming decades, or is it just better to cut funding?
Rural and urban concerns. Let's talk about the challenges faced by the cities and the countryside. These issues are connected and affect not just our local communities but the entire world. According to an article on KCUR, small towns like those around Kansas City deal with problems often seen in other places. Issues such as drug abuse, poverty, and affordable housing shortages are shared challenges that affect both urban cores and rural areas. Economically speaking, urban and rural areas depend on each other. For example, urban housing problems might push people to move to rural areas, bringing in new ideas and investments. But too much urbanization can strain rural resources and traditions. On the other side, job shortages in rural areas often drive people to cities, which can lead to new, creative solutions for shared problems. An article on NPR highlights a divide across the United States when it comes to clean energy. While 2/3 of Americans support moving to renewable energy, rural and urban communities often see things differently. This happens because geography, culture, and money shape opinions. Rural areas can show cities how to live sustainably, which helps balance growth and protecting nature. However, different priorities and values can make teamwork difficult. From a social perspective, these differences come from things like education, community priorities, and local values, showing that understanding and cooperation are key. Globally, an article from STM Journals platform highlights urban planning in India. Looking at this from an environmental stance, it shows the importance of including rural needs in city plans by creating strong ties between urban and rural areas. Cities can use green technology while rural areas can focus on protecting nature. But if resources aren't shared equally, both areas might face bigger challenges, especially with issues like climate change. What is clear is that cities and rural areas do not just share problems, they share chances to work together. By tackling these issues as a team, we can create fair and forward-looking solutions. Whether it is the heart of a city or the heartland of a country, every community has a part to play in building a better future.
Humans have become so dependent on technology and devices that they choose to disregard any harm they may bring, and in many cases, so does the scientist. Medical and scientific advancements and their ethics refers to any research and progress made in the medical and scientific fields and all the different moral principles that come along with them. Lately, the use of AI has expanded and it's now helping us in more valuable ways. For example, an article from the Miami Herald talks about new AI mammograms that are detecting breast cancer in its earliest stages. Catching cancer like this allows patients to avoid harsh therapies and still have better and healthy outcomes. And this isn't the only advancement that can actually benefit people. One article from NPR talks about a device that can convert sniffs into letters. This allows paralyzed patients to communicate texts and send emails like anyone else. So from a social standpoint, this can reduce isolation and allow patients to participate in different social settings. But these breakthroughs aren't always made with the consideration of what's good and bad. For instance, another article from NPR talks about gene editing, which is advertised as a way to get rid of diseases by simply altering the gene in embryos. The problem is that this one benefit is quickly outweighed by the many ways this procedure can be easily abused or go horribly wrong. It can be used to modify babies for aesthetic purposes, exploit women, and have life-threatening consequences. From a scientific standpoint, gene editing can have cascading effects, which leads to loss of diversity and unintended mutations. Apart from being unsafe, many scientists use their innovations as money grabbers. An article I read from The Guardian mentioned Vertex, a company in Boston that developed a life-saving medication for cystic fibrosis. This company refuses to sell or allow anyone else to sell their drug in the developing world. They do this to make the most money off of it, obtain patents, and block out potential competition. This is cruel and unfair to many people whose life would have been saved had they lived in the US. So, in the end, while many scientists do strive to do good with their developments, many choose to ignore simple good ethical values. The quality of our lives depends on how we maintain ourselves, the food we eat, and how healthy we are. Health is crucial, but how can we lead a healthy lifestyle if we were never taught how to do so or had the resources? Diet, health education, and the provisions of healthcare refers to proper nutrition, teachings of healthy habits, and the availability of medical services. Over the years, health education has shown its impact in our lives, improving public health and preventing diseases. There are healthcare programs that inform Americans on how to prevent and deal with obesity and diabetes, as shown in an article from the Miami Herald. Before, people were given the same old niche and ineffective remedies by doctors. Now, they are being provided with healthy diets and medications that are tailored to each patient's personal needs. From an educational perspective, being aware of the problem and being taught how to effectively manage it is crucial to a person's health. Apart from this, healthcare has shown to go as far as raising the average life expectancy of a country. For instance, an article from The Guardian mentions how poorer countries have benefited from providing simple and affordable healthcare. In this case, Thailand's mortality rates have significantly lowered, and life expectancy has risen to more than 74 years after birth. Healthcare has also helped equal mortality rates between the rich and the poor, which is hard to achieve even in the richer countries. While it may seem great, providing healthcare and health education also has its setbacks. For example, an article from CNN explains how curriculums for children that are aimed to improve their health can actually do more harm. Teaching complex nutrient classes to young children can lead to them developing eating disorders, cutting out food, or feeling guilt after eating. Many don't understand when it's okay to eat certain foods and when not to, leading to them cutting it out completely. Improper nutrition classes can also create a negative environment around food for adults as well, not just children. Another major setback is economic struggles. Healthcare is expensive to fund, and many individuals can't afford it. So from an economic perspective, the cost of healthcare can limit many people's access to healthcare, impacting a country's overall health.
Advertising is a powerful tool to inform, persuade, and influence public behavior. Advertising promotes economic and career opportunities. Advertising plays a pivotal role in driving economic growth by creating demand for products and services, leading to increased sales and revenue. It enables businesses to reach broader audiences, facilitating market expansion and competitiveness. According to an article from the New York Times, advertising helps in market expansion and leads to increased sales and revenue. From this evidence, we can see that the advertising of digital subscriptions increases revenue. Politically, governments utilize advertising for public awareness campaigns, influencing public opinion and behavior. Advertising also enhances product quality and innovation. Advertising fosters competition among businesses, encouraging them to innovate and improve product quality to meet consumer expectations. The Economic Times notes that advertising is a means of communication with the users of a product or service, implying its role in informing consumers about a product's improvements and innovations. This competitive environment benefits consumers through better products and services. Despite its benefits, advertising can sometimes be misleading, presenting exaggerated claims that deceive customers. According to USA Today, advertising involves techniques used to bring products or services to public notice for the purpose of persuading the public to buy their product. These can be exaggerated and false and deceive customers. From an economic standpoint, deceptive advertising can lead to financial losses for consumers and legal consequences for businesses. Another issue is advertising clutter. The overwhelming presence of advertising in daily life leads to advertising clutter, where people become desensitized or irritated by the constant promotional messages. This can reduce the effectiveness of advertising campaigns. All in all, advertising is a tool that drives economic growth, fosters innovation, and informs consumers. However, advertising can also cause misleading practices and advertising clutter. Balancing the benefits and drawbacks of advertising is essential for its continued effectiveness in society. Since the beginning of time, humans have used language to communicate, connect, and pass on knowledge. Language is a structured system of communication that allows people to express thoughts, emotions, and ideas. Language promotes economic and career opportunities. One of the greatest advantages of a language is its impact on economic success and career advancement. In today's globalized economy, being multilingual opens doors to better job opportunities, international business, and diplomatic roles. An article from NPR highlights a fact that disproves the idea that AI is replacing translators. From this evidence, we can see that translator jobs are still thriving and needed in today's world. From an economic standpoint, businesses rely on multilingual employees to expand globally. It is more efficient and conscientious when an employee is making the effort to speak another language to expand their business. Language advances empathy and cultural understanding. Language also plays a crucial role in fostering empathy and cultural awareness. Being multilingual allows individuals to engage with different perspectives, enhancing their ability to connect with others on a deeper level. A report from the University of Arizona News highlights that multilingual individuals develop stronger emotional intelligence and adaptability. This shows that speaking another language can promote diversity and build meaningful connections. There is difficulty in language learning. Many languages have complex grammar rules and pronunciation challenges that make them difficult to master. According to the European School Education News platform, the difficulty of language acquisition varies based on factors such as age, environment, and exposure. Socially, people who struggle with language learning may experience inclusion in multilingual communities, leading to communication barriers and misunderstandings. Language acquisition and loss of cultural heritage. A more serious challenge is the extinction of languages, particularly among indigenous communities. Globalization, urbanization, and the dominance of widely spoken languages like English and Mandarin are causing thousands of languages to disappear. This is detrimental to communities and cultures. Language is one of humanity's most powerful tools. It drives economic success, deepens cultural understanding, and preserves history. However, it also presents challenges such as learning difficulties and the loss of linguistic diversity. Understanding the power of language allows us to bridge gaps, connect communities, and shape a more inclusive world.
In this video, I will go over nonfiction writing. If you're not sure what nonfiction writing is, it is any type of writing that presents real facts, events, or information. Nonfiction writing, like books, can help teachers teach students subjects like history, but it can also help improve critical thinking skills because it requires them to research topics. However, there are also some issues with nonfiction writing. Some people might find that nonfiction writing is boring or dry and may not enjoy reading it. And it is also less creativity when compared to fiction books. An article from ASCD states, one reason reading nonfiction may be so important is that it helps students develop their background knowledge, which itself counts for as much as 30% of the variance in students' achievement. To explain further, nonfiction writing can be a big part of helping students have more success in school. From an educational viewpoint, nonfiction writing can be used to help students in school. The next article I read was an article published by Graydon Street Press, which says, fiction books can improve your creativity, imagination, and empathy. Nonfiction books will expand your general knowledge, help you to think critically, and improve self-awareness. To explain further, people read fiction for something that's not real or enjoyable. On the other hand, people read nonfiction for more informational type of story to help them learn about past events. From a social viewpoint, nonfiction writing usually contains facts about past events which can help you learn but may not be as enjoyable. The last article that I read was published by Creative Nonfictions. It says, stories should not only be true, they should ring true. This highlights the importance of not only presenting factual information, but also ensuring that the narrative resonates authentically with readers. The topic I'm going to discuss in this video is print and digital media. If you're not familiar with print media is any physical form of media like books or newspapers, while digital media is media that is distributed electronically like podcasts or social media. Print media can be beneficial for people who don't have access to an electronic device, but print media can also be problematic because it's expensive to make and can take an extended period of time to publish. Digital media can also be advantageous due to being able to be published faster and costing less money. However, one big issue with digital media like Instagram or TikTok is the low credibility of sources. The sources may be biased or inaccurate. An article published by the International News Media Association states, according to the Press Gazette, in the UK, 54% of people now prefer reading news content online than in print newspapers, and the preference is even stronger in the US, where it is 60%. This shows how many people have transitioned from newspapers to the internet. From a media point of view, digital media is more accessible to people all over the world. I read another article that was published by the Pew Research Center that states audiences are shrinking for several other types of news media, such as local TV station, most newspapers, and public radio, even as they grow for newer platforms like podcasts, as well as for a few specific media brands. Most people now don't rely on television anymore because of the social media apps like TikTok and Instagram being so addictive. The last article I read by RESC states recent research, including a study by Temple University and the University of Maryland in 2019, suggests that reading from printed materials in a distinct way stimulates the brain, resulting in increased understanding and memory retention compared to on digital devices. This can show another way on digital media can be beneficial for helping people learn and memorize things. From a scientific viewpoint, digital media can help improve memory, which can be helpful for things like school.